Poolside at the Dearborn Inn. I sit near the shallow end, reading John Dos Passos's The Big Money and scribbling in a notebook while my wife does laps. He never drank, never smoked. His mother said he was a good boy, and he believed it, Dos Passos writes of Henry Ford. Swimming slowly and maintaining the shape of the stroke is an art. The fact that septuagenarians can stare down the blank and be happy while bathing ponderous bodies is nothing if not inspiring. I'm 36 and can't stand the sight of my sallow face in mirrors. The Fords built this hotel to serve an airport that never materialized. Harry J. Brooks's death off the coast of Melbourne, Florida in 1928 put an end to the flivver plane. Friends described the old man as spooked and distraught over Brooks. This I learned from my grandmother, not Dos Passos. She would sit poolside here every day in July, eating green grapes and playing bridge beneath a Canadian maple tree. The autopsy of the flivver plane found that Brooks had jammed wooden toothpicks in the vent holes of the fuel cap to keep moist air from entering. The toothpicks plugged the vent, causing engine failure. Nobody found the pilot's body. It was lost somewhere along those coastal shoals, mutilated and incinerated, dispersed by swift Gulf currents. Nobody found Jose Robles, Dos Passos's friend and translator, thought to have been murdered by Stalinists during the Spanish Civil War, either. Dos Passos's politics would drift rightward toward Ford's in the years following Robles's death. I've never made a flight in an airplane, and I don't know that I'm particularly anxious to. I would, though, like to take a trip in a dirigible. Bring one out here sometime, won't you, Dr. Eckemer, and give me a ride? Ford would only go on 3 short flights in his lifetime, publicity stunts mostly, and never after Brooks's crash. History is mostly bunk. I wouldn't give a nickel for all the history in the world, he once said. The only history that is worth a tinker's dam is the history we make today. I take my drink into the shadows of the Georgian brick building and think again of my mother's mother, Gwendolyn Morrissey O'Neill, who, when I'd ask her questions about Ford's goons beating up her cousin Jim, a UAW organizer, or read her excerpts from the Dearborn Independent, would tell me to lay off of them. They were a good family. My wife is the last to leave the pool. She tastes of gin and chlorinated water as we kiss, her breasts pale against her sun-kissed shoulders. The swimming pool gleams in this waning light, and I know these Epicurean afternoons and sleepy evenings will one day go on without us. I'm thinking of the coiled muscles of a dolphin's body, arcing just a few feet above the surface of the water, and old and young people alike pretending to stave off eventuality. How all beauty is anachronistic, down to the springs of the diving board. The sick tropes that knowing history is supposed to ward off, falsely ennobling the past. The splendor of this courtyard, bermed by Japanese maple and honeysuckle, mulch the color of the brick. How Ford's aphorisms sounded both ignorant and profound, which might ultimately be the litmus for true poetic statement. Can it be both stupid and deep? I keep coming back to my grandmother, who chased her children down the block when the streetlights came on. How she told me the Fords were a good family, to let them be. She was always playing cards, here or in her kitchen, solitaire or bridge, smoking Doral cigarettes she never inhaled, blowing smoke rings at the kitchen ceiling, or into the dusty leaves of birch and maple trees. Shuffling decks with the indelible sound of a mourning dove taking flight. Smoke whistling from her nose, the shape of the rings holding and flowering like epiphytes on hot, still days.